Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Safety Brief. Today, we're diving into a topic that sounds simple, but remains one of the biggest cybersecurity challenges for businesses, and that's cyber hygiene. Here's a stat to kick things off: 88% of breaches happen due to human error. That means the vast majority of cyber incidents could have been avoided with better security habits, not tools. Even with all the advancements in cybersecurity, companies still struggle with weak passwords, unpatched software, and poor phishing awareness. So today, we're going to break it all down. Matt is joining me in this discussion today. As always, thank you for being here.
Hello.
Happy to have you. So let's start with the basics. What is cyber hygiene, and why is this such a major security challenges for businesses today?
Well, hygiene, basically put, is keeping things clean. Unfortunately, most Americans don't know how to wash their hands after they go to the bathroom, so they also don't know how to wash their passwords after they've been found in breaches. Just saying. So, cyber hygiene would basically be the equivalence of once you have used a password and you are changing it, scrub it from being used again. If you use the password again and there is a breach, which there will be a breach, there's always a breach. It's not like they don't happen. The chance that one of your old passwords shows up and that you have reused it means you could be unfortunately allowing somebody access to information they don't need. Even if you think it's been years since I used that password, well, guess what? That's what people are counting on. You changing the password, changing the password, changing the password. Oh, I'm going to go back to something that I used before because it's been so long. Well, now it's able to be used and you don't think anything about it. They do.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think another thing to keep in mind is regularly updating is a huge one as well. So, well, let's get into the specifics here. The most common cyber hygiene mistakes that lead to security incidents. I can kick this one off with a stat, and that's 61% of breaches involve stolen or weak credentials, like Matt was stating. That's right, a password. One example we covered in our blog this week is the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack. A compromised password found on the dark web gave attackers access to a VPN account with no MFA. Again, bad hygiene. This single weak point led to a nationwide field disruption. That's insane. So, what about you, Matt? What are the most common cyber hygiene mistakes that lead to incidents? And do you have an example to shed light on it?
Recent
Doesn't have to be
or
recent, just an example to break down how, like the Colonial Pipeline, how one password can disrupt
I
a lot.
mean, we use this all the time, but one password, MGM Grand.
Yeah.
One password got them access to everything that they could have ever needed in order to deliver payloads and cripple a multi-billion dollar industry. I mean, it was absolutely unheard of the amount of money that was lost by those businesses just because they had been taken offline in some of their systems. I mean, mind you, Vegas is a completely different animal than most of the rest of the world, but they are still businesses nonetheless. So, being able to look at the hospitality industry, being able to look at the gambling industry, because they had to take down a number of the gaming machines because those systems were hit as well. They weren't able to control them. Looking at how much money per minute, some people broke it down to how much money per second they were losing while they were down. It was a ridiculous amount. Think about that. If you're a smaller company and you have an incident because somebody's password was either out there in a breach and they were, unlucky enough to be chosen by somebody to actually try it out, um, and you had access to critical information. that was pertinent to your business's day-to-day operations. And that information was then halted because, say, a ransomware attack was leveraged against your organization. What's the chances that you guys are going to weather that attack? I mean, you may come back from it, but how much did you lose? How much are you now set back? What is now at risk? If you are a larger company that is traded publicly, you have shareholders to answer to. I mean, private companies, it's hard for them as well because they don't have that stockpile or that surplus laying around for a rainy day. A lot of them are operating on very thin budgets.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be in a position where either it's a resume generating event, all because your password happened to be the one that was used, or it could go to the extremes to where it could actually end up shuttering a company. I mean, it's crappy to think that, because one simple password could, in theory, impact so many other people's lives. And yeah, it's insane to think about that. Why not change your passwords more frequently? Why not use a secure password? You don't want to have to change your password all the time, or you suck at remembering your password. Hi, that'd be me. Um, there are utilities, and we don't get paid for this, but Keeper, Bitdefender, or not Bitwarden. Bitdefender doesn't do anything. Bitwarden does things. They will allow you to keep your passwords safe. Google is actually getting to the point now whenever you are signing up for a website, it will automatically try to generate a secure password for you.
Yep.
Now, that's good and bad. The good is, dude, those passwords are crazy long. It's going to take a lot to be able to crack them. The bad is, oh my God, I hope you remember the password. Otherwise, you're going to be resetting that password again.
Another bad to that, Matt, is it saves it right there on your
Mm-hmm.
browser. So anytime you're prompted to save your information, whether that be your first name, last name, birthday, bank account information, your credit cards, your passwords, especially, do not save that information on your browser. I
Let's break
get
that
the
down.
ease of access. Like, oh, you get to go in the browser and check out automatically. That is not safe.
Nope, it's not. So let's break that down a little bit. Why is that not safe? Have you guys heard of a little thing called session hijacking? Well, it's very simple. You have somebody that sends you an email, you go to a link. That link is actually malicious. Once you go there, it's basically scraping the information and allowing them to take over almost identical your browser. That means that they have access to objects that you are currently logged into, um, which is a nightmare inducing dream that I don't exactly want to think about, because I've seen people impacted by it and it sucks. Worse is if you have applications on your desktop, but they have a web component that is running through your browser and is logged in, they can then take over that web component, which means they can take over the desktop component. Think about that. There are applications that you log into that are for file sharing and storage. What happens if they take that over? I guarantee you they're not just going to say, oh, we'll leave the password for you, we'll just look at all your files. No, no, they're gonna go ahead and they're gonna take over that account completely, because you're not going to notice it. They're going to leave the devices logged in. This is how it gets really smart. So when somebody takes this over, generally you're prompted to either disconnect currently connected devices, such as much as I hate to say it, Meta. I don't remember my password for Meta. I never do, so I reset it like every 2 weeks. When my machine decides that it wants to forcibly reboot because Microsoft doesn't like me. So when you log in with that, or you change your password for that, you're instantly prompted with two things: keep my devices logged in, log out all other devices. Well, if somebody takes over the account, a dead giveaway that they have your account is if you magically get logged out of all your devices.
Yep.
Because you're going to get a notification saying your password was changed, and then all of a sudden, all your crap is going to get logged out. That's a dead giveaway. you know that something is happening at that point. It's too late at that point. But if it's a desktop application and it's designed to synchronize files, you don't want to log that out. They want to leave that logged in. They want you to keep putting more files in there because that's more information for them to extricate from your environment without you even knowing it. You're basically, at that point, you're voluntarily giving them information. It's like you're skipping the middleman, going right to the information brokers and saying, guys, I got some great information for my company. It's right here. I'm just going to hand this over to you. It's great doing business with you. I got nothing out of this deal. I'm going to go on home now.
Well, if it's on
That's
multiple devices as well, it's an easy way for lateral
it's
movement.
it's a treasure trove of information and lateral movement. Yeah, it's extremely simple. Plus, remember, syncing is two ways. So, what's the number one thing that I mean, if I was doing this, not that I ever have. Again, disclaimer: we don't do questionable things. I do the questionable things. Put a file in there to sync down to their drive. I mean, you basically have the ultimate dropper at your hand, like at your disposal, right there. Put something on there, it drops down to their machine. They're gonna see it and they're gonna think, "Oh, what is this? I don't remember this. I'm gonna open it up."
Let me click on it.
There you go. And now you are regretting your life. I mean, it's very, very simple, but this is what we talk about when we're saying that there needs to be hygiene. If you are running something on your device and it is synchronizing, you need to be very cognizant of what is being synchronized on there. The one thing that I mean, we preach this here quite regularly. If you are using a work device, use it for work. All right? Laptops are cheap. Go buy yourself one at Walmart or Target, or hell, I think they probably have them at Dollar General at this point. Go get yourself a cheap laptop if you need something to use for personal.
Keep it
Do not
separated.
exactly. The law enforcement has a lovely term they use when they are going after somebody for financial crimes. It's called commingling. All right? They try to catch people that are commingling their funds, meaning that you are basically combining funds from a personal or a professional, or basically a legal versus an illegal enterprise, and they're being blended together so that you can't, to try and hide the stream of funding. Think of it as the same thing with your work and your personal computer. Keep the data separate. Your personal data doesn't need to be on a work device.
Well, it can also be on the same desk with the same setup. That's what I have. I have a
Mm-hmm.
switch. So I literally just push a button and my mouse, my keyboard, and my monitor, everything automatically switches to my personal Alienware
Very
machine. So I'm
simple
able,
KVM setup. Yeah,
yeah, I push a button and I'm able to utilize my device versus utilizing the Blockworks device, keeping
exactly.
that separate. It's super easy. It doesn't always have to be a completely whole new setup because I know that can sound daunting as well. But even a laptop or iPads, they now come with the keyboards and the whole shebang. They're turning iPads into laptops as well.
Surfaces are basically the Surface Pro is basically just a very thin, non-upgradable laptop at this
Yeah.
point. It runs on. It's not the same version of Windows. It's ARM based, obviously, but it looks, it feels, it acts just like a regular laptop does. It has a mouse, has the keyboard, has everything you could use. All the file types will work and everything. It's just installation of software is different. It's ARM based software versus your x86 64 based software. But I mean, you're right. You're right. A simple KVM will allow you to do as the Offspring said, keep them separated.
Another lazy way is a virtual machine if you want to get really lazy.
Virtual machines can work, but then remember, there's other security you have to take into consideration.
Yeah.
There are threat actors that will actually look for virtual machines that are accessible. They can get on that virtual machine and they have payloads that are able to go from the virtual machine to the actual host. So that brings up an entirely different line of things that have to be
Can of
protected.
worms. But
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, I will not can of worms it today. I will
if you're not proficient at security, maybe not that route. But thank
yeah,
you for
definitely
that,
not that.
Matt. Moving on, I think it's also important to remember that security awareness isn't just about setting up a tool and forgetting about it. It needs to be a continuous effort where cybersecurity becomes second nature and a culture. So,
Hmm.
what are the best ways to get employees engaged in daily cyber hygiene habits?
Indoctrination. Wait, no, that's not where we're going with this. Um, I mean, honestly, it's having the conversations. It does not work when you try to beat something into somebody and say you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. You got to make it approachable. You have to make it
Yeah,
fun. I mean, there's ways that you can do it. You could do like a weekly session where you guys do tabletop exercises. You could do Dungeons and Dragons, but have it themed around security.
you can
Yes, it
have your
does actually
team.
work.
You can have your team watch the safety brief.
You can have them watch the safety brief. That's the best way because then you get to laugh at me, not because I'm funny, just because I'm me. But you get to have a lot of fun. You get to listen. You get to learn. We try to put it into a way, into a manner that is approachable by anybody. But there's so many things that you can do around cyber hygiene. The one thing I will say that you don't do around cyber hygiene, don't do phishing testing and tell the people when the emails are coming for the phishing testing. That does not help
Don't.
ever.
It's not a pop quiz if you know that the quiz is coming.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like having that cool teacher that's like your tests are going to be open book, but in this case, it doesn't help because failing this test is not something that you ever want to experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to have the conversations. You need to. I mean, it's really hard to force people to have an acumen of cyber hygiene when most really don't know what cyber is to start with.
Yeah.
Unless you're actually, I mean, unless you're in the upper echelons of IT and trying to cross over into cyber, or you've been in cyber for a while, people don't know that cyber is actually there. It's voodoo, it's witchcraft.
Doesn't exist until it impacts them.
Exactly. And then they still don't know what it is. They just know they don't like it.
Yeah. So just to provide a couple list of actions that can be taken before we move on to the next question that businesses can take to create a security first culture. And that's making security training interactive and ongoing, like Matt stated, encouraging employees to report suspicious activity, and rewarding good security behaviors. It's important that your employees feel comfortable with bubbling up suspicious activity. It can help stop a lot of social engineering attacks. But if they're not comfortable with coming forward with things, they're not going to, and it's going to lead to an attack. Now, let's switch gears here. AI powered tools like Made plus CDR from Blockworks can detect and prevent risky behaviors in real time on the endpoint, but businesses still need human awareness to stop social engineering attacks. I won't name names, however, for a good reason. However, I had a family friend calling me, telling me how they got hacked, one of their social media platforms. And when they explained the situation, all I could do was laugh because this poor guy got spoofed so hard. The bad actor was pretending to be his aunt, who had taken over her account. And for some reason, she wanted to log into his account. And I assume they're on that closeness level. Well, he thought nothing of it and gave her the his login information. Excuse me, and went as far as giving out his MFA code to them, handing over his account. And I'm sorry, but there's no security tools that could have helped him there. He handed
No.
over the keys to his account. There's no amount of money that you can spend on cybersecurity tools to prevent something like that. So, Matt, what are the advantages and limitations of AI when it comes to cybersecurity hygiene?
Limitations are it's only going to be as good as we program it to be,
Yeah.
which means that, as we've already discussed, many people are terrible when it comes to cyber hygiene. So that means the AI is going to be equally as terrible. Um,
Depending.
Honestly, I mean, depending, yes, if you put the right learning on the back end, it can actually learn and grow. But we're not trying to promote Skynet right now, so we'll bypass that one. But I mean, it can really help out. There's a lot of things that are in the works and that I know of that when it comes to things like identity access management, there's a lot of revolutionary things that are being worked on that will help to try and keep people safe. Um, there's I don't know, AI is just so
It's
it's just
definitely a
so
buzzword.
convoluted right now. Yeah, it's everybody claims they have AI. 99% of the people don't have AI. They have some cheaply compiled bot that somebody that was the cheapest possible bidder put together for them.
It's like using a website chatbot and calling it AI.
Basically, yeah. There are some technologies out there that I know will change the game when it comes to cyber hygiene and keeping data safe. Um, right now, they're few and far between. I hate to say it, but right now, there's still a very large need for humans to be directly involved in the hygiene process, and
Even in the security process, human
exactly,
validation will never go away. I'm sorry,
you,
but
you could use a large language model or Gen AI to try and help you develop a process. But at this point, it's still going to be a very human process because you can't trust AI in its current limitations to really overseeing cyber hygiene.
yeah.
But that's okay. This is where you can leverage the technology to try and make your life a little bit easier. It can do a lot of the lift work for you, but you're still going to have to do that validation and implementation.
It's a support. It's not there to do it all
Hmm.
for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, I'd also like to point out that AI can spot anomalies faster than humans,
Hmm.
automate detection, and reduce false positives. But attackers are also getting smarter and using AI to create more convincing phishing scams and deepfake social engineering attacks. Altogether, AI is a powerful tool, but human vigilance is still a critical layer of defense. I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon.
No, it's not.
All right, so to wrap things up with some actionable insights, if businesses could focus on just three cyber hygiene improvements in 2025, what would they be?
Hmm. Implement a hardware two-factor authentication. And by that, I mean something like a YubiKey, something that's physical that you have to provide in order for it to be able to accept the two-factor authentication. Because as good as people are, they can't duplicate a YubiKey quite yet. I'd say give some idiot with a flipper zero enough time and they'll find a way. But right now, it's one of the better options you have for defense. The other is make sure that you actually have a cyber playbook. If you have a cyber playbook that is outlining when you need to do specific password changes, what requirements there are for those password changes, and then ensuring that you follow through and actually require and do the password changes. That's a huge one. I know a lot of organizations that are like, we have a cyber playbook. We do all of this. When's the last time the playbook was run? Never. Oh, great. All right. You've got a playbook on the books for many years you've never used. Dallas Cowboys, here you come. Um, got to take a shot at them when I can.
My grandpa would not appreciate that one.
That's all right. My buddy may or may not be watching right now, and he's a diehard Cowboys fan. So, B, that one's for you. Let's see. Third, I mean, cyber hygiene. One of the biggest things is going to come down to access management.
Hmm.
And if a person's password is unfortunately leaked and leveraged, having the right access management in place to where they only have access to the things they're supposed to have access to can minimize the scope.
Yeah.
But what happens, environments have identity and access management. Somebody complains and says, I want to be able to access this. Well, the team's overloaded. There's not enough of them to actually handle what they're trying to do. They go in there and they're just like, screw it, give them access to whatever. Well, here's the problem: the person didn't need access to it for a long period of time. They just needed to get a file. But
Temporary.
because of that, and because of laziness, apathy, sloth, whatever you want to call it, the permissions were left in place. Part of having hygiene is going through and ensuring that when a person is done with the level of access that they have and they don't need that elevated access anymore, that you take it away.
It's almost like this. If you have a security system on your house, right? You can give out codes to individuals. So my
Hmm.
mother has a code, our maid has a code, maybe your babysitter has a code. Now, if your maid or your babysitter no longer live with you, I mean, no longer work for you, or your mother no longer lives with you and is no longer in that state or region, there's no reason to have those codes out there. There's no reason that
Correct.
they should have that access at all. Same scenario. I
So
appreciate that.
here's something that I would like to put out. A lot of people think that the employees that they have in the office are going to be the biggest threat to their data. Do you know who really is one of the greatest threats to all of your data? Your cleaning crew. Think about that. Most people have access to a building that gets them to a specific area, right? Cleaning crew can go everywhere.
It just reminds me of all the super spy movies where you see them dressing up as janitors.
There's a reason for that. It's because
Yeah. Social
if
engineering
I were
blending
to
in.
try and do a physical attack on, data, you go into somebody unassuming. Most people don't even look at the janitorial staff.
Nope.
I mean, I hate to say this, but a lot of people look down on the janitorial staff. They are doing a job that is absolutely needed. They're keeping your place of employment clean
Yep.
so that you don't get sick, so that you can come in and you can make money. But people don't even pay attention to them. So that's why adversaries will utilize the janitorial staff, or a role that is equivalent to the janitorial staff in terms of access, to get whatever they need data wise. And then they get out and nobody realizes that, oh, maybe they shouldn't have just had, access at all times to that data. There are some environments I know of, and when I was at Perot Systems, that was one of the things that they did. All of the cleaning staff had specific areas they were allowed to go to. They had individualized staff. They worked a certain area of that building, and they could not cross to go to different areas. All of them had access to go to the general areas like the cafeteria and stuff like that, but they had limited access. You didn't have one person that could log in on one end of the building with their key card and end up in the CEO's suite way up top. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
It was very much gated off. It was I mean, it's the equivalence of what you want to do with your logins and your passwords. You want to have those to where, if somebody illicitly accesses, you're able to find it, shut it down, and not lose a large amount in the process.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Matt. Well, we covered a lot today, but the key takeaway is that cyber hygiene is everyone's responsibility. Attackers thrive on poor security habits, and businesses need to step up their game to stay ahead. Matt, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge today. and to our listeners for tuning in. If you'd like to learn more about how Blockworks can take your MSP from reactive to proactive cybersecurity, visit blockworks.com or email us at sales@blockworks.com. We'll see you next time on the Safety Brief. Stay frosty.